excited to share this message with you all. And so last month was about cherishing the human family. And for those of you who are first-time visitors, we are part of a larger movement. You know, I know some of you think this is this wonderful little treasure in Ocala that doesn't exist anywhere else, but there are other centers for spiritual living. There's over 400 of us around the country and the world. And so we have monthly themes that we do, and we as ministers have the option to do the themes or not. And so I've been doing them because I love it. Spirituality in action. And that to me is what it's all about. It's where the rubber meets the road in your life. Like, how does this stuff work? I don't do theory. I don't do theory unless it's practical and it's going to work in your life. So our theme last month was about cherishing the human family. And so Kelly spoke on that some, but Kelly didn't know that the theme for this month was leadership, and how perfect his talk was to lead into this month as we talk about leadership. And our topic is spiritually motivated moral leadership. So I'm going to talk about what that means. What is the foundation of moral leadership? Now, that word, I'm going to start with that word, moral, because I think it has been kind of hijacked, maybe in the 80s or so, you know, where people said moral and it was kind of like a code or a dog whistle for some other, you know, for things like it. And well, let me just go to the definition. Morality means relating to standards of good behavior, honesty, and fair dealing, and behaving in ways considered by most people to be correct and honest. Now, the thing with morals is that morals change, right? As times change, morals change. What people think is moral and right in one era may not be moral and correct in the next one. So I actually, when I saw the topic title, I was like, moral leadership? I'm not sure I like that. But if we use this definition of morality, relating to standards of good behavior, honesty, and fairness, I think we can get by, right? So what I teach anyway, at Centers for Spiritual Living, is spiritual principle, which is universal. Right? That means it doesn't change. Unlike morals, which may change from era to era, universal principle is true regardless of when we're talking about. Right? So what I'm going to speak about today, this foundation of moral leadership, is actually universal principle. So let me go to a definition here that I found. Here we go. So I went for most of my inspiration for this month's talks come from business, not from spiritual books, but from practical, real business with that spirituality infused in it. And I found a great article that came out of Fortune magazine, of all things, and it's their Change the World issue. Apparently they do an issue every year that's about changing the world, and they feature businesses and people who are doing big things in the world to change culture and to move us forward in progress. So this comes from an article that's called The 4 Pillars of Moral Leadership from Fortune 2017, Change the World. And the author says, the animating spirit of business has always been an ambition to do big things, to build something valuable, to solve a difficult problem, to provide a useful service, and to explore the frontiers of human possibility. At its essence, therefore, business is about human endeavor. How many of you can be on board with that? Right? We're all about human endeavor and moving forward, right, in positive ways. But it's getting harder for leaders, the author says, because of the forces reshaping our world. Interdependence, proximity, and forced transparency have left us disoriented and morally unmoored. Now, I thought that was an interesting phrase, right? To say forced transparency. You know, we can't do hardly anything in secret anymore. Right? There have been things in times past with leaders that did things that we didn't all get to find out about, right? Because we didn't have social media and the news and cameras everywhere. So things are different, a little bit different now. And people have to, we're learning how to work through this. He says, trust has broken down between citizens and elected officials, between business leaders and employees, between consumers and suppliers, and between people with opposing positions or opinions. Would y'all agree with that as well? No one is exempt from this moral crisis and its consequences. Leaders can't afford to dismiss it or watch it unfold while privately thinking, this doesn't affect me or my business. the forces that we are seeing, the forces behind this, are sweeping, they are indiscriminate, they are unforgiving, and the time to reckon with them is now. Would you all agree we are in a crisis of moral leadership? Absolutely. Only one kind of leadership can respond to this moral crisis of trust, and that is moral leadership. It doesn't come, however, from formal authority. You don't get it by winning an election or being named the boss or locking it up with super voting shares. You can't buy it. You cannot seize it. Moral leadership stems from an authority that must be earned every day. And so he goes on to talk about what are the attributes of moral leaders. So the first thing, right, moral leaders are driven by purpose. Right? They are tuned into their why. We talk about purpose here a lot. We talk about vision, we talk about mission. It's the first thing, one of the first things you see when you come in here, because it is important to know about the organization. What is our mission? What is our purpose? What do we value? So that when you see this, you can look and see, hey, I'm on board with that. Or no, I'm not. Because frankly, we're not for everybody. Right? There are lots of churches. There are lots of places people could be on Sunday morning. You know, we are very clear about what we're here to do and what we're about. And so I hope you see that and feel that and can resonate with what we're about. So moral leaders know what their purpose is, right? They know what that's about. They inspire and they elevate others, right? A leader is not just about having people be loyal to them or doing their bidding, right? This moral leadership model is really what we call a servant leader model, right? A person who is leading because of a greater good. They lead in service of this higher purpose and vision. So that's why it's important for each of us to know what our purpose and our mission and vision is personally. Right? But moral leaders inspire others and elevate others. Right? It's not all about me. It's I know that I am doing what I came here to do because you all are elevated. Yes. Right? Because the people that I come in contact with are left a little bit better because of our interaction. Right? I like to know that the people who are part of this center, whether you're here physically or you're watching online or you're touched by it in some way, that your lives are made better. Yes. That's what we're here for. That's the bigger picture. Right? It's not about me. It has nothing to do with me. In fact, if I thought that my presence here was harming or damaging this place in some way, I'd be the first one to leave. You wouldn't have to ask me. Amen. Right? So we inspire and we elevate others. That's what moral leaders do. Moral leaders are animated by courage and patience. It takes a lot to step up and lead. You know, and as we've talked about power in other months past, you know what? Remember the Power versus Force, David Hawkins' work? We've talked about that. What is the linchpin? Where do things switch from being in a place of force and making things happen versus owning your own power and being empowered and empowering others? Do y'all remember where things switch over? Yeah. You know, he had a whole scale of emotion, and it starts at the bottom with shame, right? That's the lowest emotion that there can be. And then we move up into, you wouldn't think it, but it is moving up into grief, right? And then apathy, and then desire, and then anger. Like there's a whole scale. And if you're not familiar with this work, see me afterward. I'll be glad to direct you to it. But there is a place where things start to switch over, where people, you know, like feeling prideful, being in pride is a lot better than being in shame, right? But it's not the highest emotion. What's the next place to go from pride? You move into courage. Right? Courage is where everything switches over. Then we step into our authentic power as human beings. And that's what it takes, leadership. It requires courage. It means stepping to the edge of what you know and being able to step out in faith. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And it's a scary place to be. You all have done it, right? Yes, right? It takes faith. So moral leaders have courage, and they have patience, and they have faith. And moral leaders keep building muscle. What he means by that is that it's not a place of arriving. Like, now I've got this title of leader, and I've got it all together. Now y'all just do what I tell you to do. Right? It's a continual, right? We have to keep earning this. Yes. We have to keep earning it. And we earn it when things get difficult, when things are tough, and you keep coming back to your vision, your mission, your values, and you use that as your compass, right? That's what keeps you on track. So moral leaders, it's not a place of arriving, it's a journey. It's a journey. And we have to build muscle to get there. Just like exercise, like anything else. The more you do it, the better you get at it. And so I want you to just throw this out there, and y'all feel free to yell out your answers. Who are your most influential leader role models? Now take the longer view, not just here now, but over your lifetime. Over your lifetime. Who have been your Yoda?
My current boss.
Gene.
My current boss.
Your current boss. Your current boss, that's good. Anybody else?
My grandmother.
Your grandmother? Your grandmother?
Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Oprah, Ruth Ginsburg. Okay. So I'm going to go back to, where's the book? Can you grab that for me, Ted? Truth About Leadership. This is another one of my sources for this month's work. And it is all about, again, leadership. Not spiritual book, but it's about leadership. And the authors of this book, James, I can't say the name, Puzes and Posner. Anyway, these guys have been in business for over 30 years and studying business and leadership. And over that time, they've interviewed and surveyed over 1 million people, right? So these answers come from their survey, from their work of over 30 years of studying business and what it takes to be a good leader and the qualities of good leadership and who are leaders, who are our most influential leader role models. So here is their data, right? Over 1 million people surveyed, over 30 years worth. The number one, and their respondents were in 2 different categories. So we've got people between 18 and 30 and then people over the age of 30. The number one role model, regardless of age, is a family member, is your parent, your grandparent. Isn't that something? Right? We think of leaders, we're thinking of people, presidents and prime ministers, and for most of us, the most influential people in our lives, right, is our family, our parents, our grandparents. The next one, depending on the age of the respondent, so for people between 18 and 30, the next category was a teacher or coach. Now for people over the age of 30, their next category was down here, business leader. But when you drill down into the numbers, business leader, what they were talking about was your immediate supervisor at work. The immediate manager. Not the CEO, unless that's the person you report to. In that case, it would be the CEO. But for most people, the most influential leaders are the ones they're dealing with on a daily basis. Isn't that fascinating? I think it is. And then community and religious leaders, that was number 3 in both categories. So that was interesting for me, like, wow.
Now the other category is teacher coach.
Yeah, teacher coach for young people, right?
For the third place, over 30 is teacher.
Yes, for the third, for over 30, yes, you're right. For the third place, for the people over 30, it's teacher or coach also. So anyway, you see basically those, and look at the ones we think about typically as political leaders, or athletes, and entertainers and things like that, people that, big names that you hear, but they're at the bottom of the scale. In fact, for people over 30, athletes, entertainers, they don't get any points. They're not looked at as leaders, right, as people mature. Well, I thought that was just fascinating information. So what does that mean? Leadership is not a birthright. It's not about your position or your title. It's not about being the CEO, the president, the general, or the prime minister. It's not about being a superstar. And it's most assuredly not about some charismatic gift. Leader role models are local. You find them close to where you live and work. They are the ones with whom you have the most intimate contact, and they are the people you meet earliest in your lives. So what does that mean? You matter, right? If you're a parent, if you have people in your life that are younger than you, it could be neighbors, friends, we are all leaders. We are all leaders. So what I'm talking about here is not about people out there. It's not about changing anything about our leaders, about our president, about any of that. It's all about us. It's all about each and every one of you, myself, all of us. This is who I'm talking about. The truth is that you make a difference. You may not even realize the ways that you are a leader in your life, right? You may not realize the people who are looking to you for approval, for understanding, for wisdom, for all kinds of things.
For the mental equivalent.
For the mental equivalent. For the mental equivalent. That's why I was so excited to hear Kelly's talk from last week as he spoke about that. Right? It's not for people out there to change. It is for us to change. And those of us in New Thought, Donna mentioned the mental equivalent. What we know is New Thought, that what we think about, we bring about. And where we focus our attention grows. Right? It grows in our awareness. It grows in our perception. It grows in our day-to-day experience. We know that here in New Thought. We know that. To me, that means we have a responsibility to use that understanding and that knowledge to help things be better, right? To help our society, to help, we need to make it that big. Your family progress, your workplace, your neighborhood, your school, your community, right? We know that we can look to the higher good. We know that we can look toward that. And we know that where we focus our attention is going to grow, not just for us, but for the people around us. Because we are all creating all the time. All the time. But when you understand that your word, that your thought is what is creating, we're not victims here. Right? We have an obligation then to create the best, create what we want to see, not focus our attention on what we're afraid of and what we don't want. We all have that capacity, each one of us, including our little one back there. Right? She's probably got buddies at school that are looking to her. Right? So moral leaders, it was the first thing on their list. Moral leaders are driven by purpose. By purpose. Define your priorities, know your values, and believe in your purpose. Only then can you effectively share yourself with others. Now, to me, that's a model of leadership. Right? It's not one person standing at the top. It is everyone working together, right, to get to a higher place so that we all come up together. What a leader does, in my mind, is a leader has the vision. A leader can share that vision. But an effective leader can help you see the vision and have it become yours. Right? Martin Luther King did that, didn't he? He said, I have a dream. I have a dream of living in a world where my children are not judged by the color of their skin. And people heard that dream, people heard that vision, and it became theirs. It became theirs. They lived that. So all of the people who believe that, who see that, who feel that, took a responsibility to, let's have that happen. And I'm going to live in a way that proves that, right? That exemplifies that. And that's what moral leaders do. And that's what all of us are. I'm not saying I'm a leader here by myself. I'm saying we are all, each one of us, leaders in our own sphere of influence. When leaders pursue their purpose in ways that are bigger than themselves, it creates the space for others to share in that mission. Moral leaders see the path ahead as a journey. And what makes this journey, what makes it moral, is how we journey, how we maintain hope, truth, and the will to find our way when we are lost. Right? This is where the morality comes in. This is where, how is it that we navigate change? Right? How do we get through when things are tough, when we're afraid, when we're angry, when things look scary, when things look difficult? How do you navigate that? This is why it's important to know your personal values, vision, and mission, so you can always have that to measure up against. Right? If you say, I value honesty, and there is an opportunity, something comes up, and you're questioning, gosh, do I speak the truth? Do I sugarcoat it? Do I not? What do you value? If you value honesty, you know that that is one of your top values, then you hold yourself to that. And no one else can hold you to it. You hold yourself to it, right? Your values are personal to you. We all have different values. We all have different values. But we need to know for ourselves what those values are. So that'll be another whole session. I'll have a list for you. How many of you have done that? Raise your hand. If you've ever looked at a list of values and picked out your top 10, your top 5, it's a great, great exercise to do. Great exercise. And it will help all of your decision making be much easier.
That's how we came up with it. We did it as a community.
That's right. We did it as a community. It's probably time for us to do it again. I like to do it at the beginning of the year, and I think the last time we did it was when I stepped into this pulpit. That we as a community determined what our values are and what's important. But the community changes, shifts, times change. We need to look at it again and see, is that still what is important to us? Right? Are we still holding ourselves to that? And then you can plan. Then you can plan future events, and you can look down the road and see, where do I want to be? And when you figure out how you get there, you're continually holding yourself to your values. Right? So opportunities come to us. Maybe people may want to come that want to present here or teach a class or do whatever. And we look at that and we say, does that reflect our values? Is that who we are, and is that what we're about? And that's how we decide, if they're a good match for us. Right? Does this make sense for everybody?
Yes.
I kind of feel like I want to make this a conversation. So remember, this is an important thing. Remember that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Because this idea of being leaders, of stepping out ahead or showing the way or being the visionary, that can feel a little scary. Anybody relate to that? Mm-hmm. I know certainly for me. That is certainly the case for me. Sometimes it feels a little lonely, but here's the thing. I know that we are, each one of us, spiritual beings having a human experience. Right? If I'm doing what is mine to do, then I am always guided. I'm always led. I'm always directed, and I felt up on that. I don't, personally, me, Cindy Grimes, doesn't have to have the answers. Donna doesn't need to have all of the answers to everything. None of us do. None of us do. But we live in the faith, right? And the belief that the answers are there. We know that much is true, right? We know the answers to any situation, any circumstance, any challenge. There is an answer to that for you, right here, right now. I can say that without a shadow of a doubt. Now, whether you will see it, that's a different story, right? Whether we can know what the answers are for ourselves, that's a different thing. But that's where spiritual practice comes in, right? So that we can become clearer. So we hear the voice and we hear feel the intuitive nudge of the direction that we're supposed to go. Spiritual power arises from a consciousness of our unity with the whole and an awareness of the direct responsiveness of spirit to us. Right? Those are the words of Ernest Holmes, who is the founder of this movement we call Centers for Spiritual Living. Right? Our power comes from knowing that we are part of something much bigger than ourselves. We don't have to know everything. We just have to know we're part of that power and presence that does know it all. And we can tap into that. And that's why we come here, why we gather in spiritual community, to be reminded of that and to practice our skills. So you take classes, you come and listen to a talk, right? You hear a great piece of music, and you go out in your life and you practice it. So it's not so scary. Right? It's not so scary anymore. Know that you and God is a majority. Right? And if Spirit is not your co-pilot, but Spirit is in the driver's seat. Right? Spirit's in the driver's seat. And you just say, where are we going? Right? Where do we go next? And you listen and you do it. So that brings us then to our affirmation. The affirmation is always the last thing I do. And I know the crew here, the volunteers, would love for me to just have your title and your affirmation, all of that, so we can get our programs printed midweek. And if I'm working on my talk and it's Saturday, It's the last thing that I do is to pull that affirmation out of all of the information that is counted. This is what came from me for this week, right? Out of all of the research and pulling all those pieces together. And I'll say it myself first. I live a value-centered, purpose-driven life and know what is mine to do. I make a positive difference in the world around me through the guidance of Spirit within me. Right? That pretty much says it all, doesn't it?